Many thanks for staying with us. And of course, thank you so much if you're just joining in. It's the continuation of your ultimate news and current affairs program, TMI, reaching you live from our Lagos Network Center on the ITV network. I am Joshua Okata. And of course, I'm being joined by my co-anchor, Patricia Gabriel-Spat. How are you?
I'm very well, Josh. Thank you for having me on set with you.
All right. Now, we'll be looking at the insecurity festering Nigeria. It's interesting to note that Nigeria's pervasive insecurity has, over time, significantly damaged its global outlook. Of course, is the situation currently beyond redeemable? Well, while you ponder over that question, from our Lagos Network Center this morning, we'll be analyzing this issue from a global standpoint, especially looking at it from the cause and, of course, the effect. And by virtue of our analysis, we'll be analyzing realistic steps that can be taken if the government in place have that political will to be able to reverse this ugly trend. I'm being joined by my guest in the person of Mr. Zaka Bala, who is a political affairs analyst. And of course, we are being joined virtually from Abuja by our guest in the person of Mr. Nnamdi Abama, who is joining us from Abuja. First and foremost, good morning to you, Mr. Zaka Bala.
Yeah, thank you, and I greet our viewers across the globe.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Also, my greetings to Mr. Nnamdi Abama, who is also joining us from Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us.
Very much. It's actually Abama.
All right.
Not
Noted.
Abama.
Thank you so much. All right. Now, let's get the ball rolling. Let me start with you, Mr. Zaka. Before we delve into the crux of the matter, let me get your bite on this particular statement made recently by the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who said, and I quote, that Boko Haram war in Nigeria in the last 15 years has been so successful because it has become an industry. What's your take on that?
Well, I totally agree with the former president. You're not talking about somebody who has been a civilian president. You're talking about somebody who has been a military general and also a Nigerian head of state, somebody who has participated in the civilian war, somebody who knows what it means, or who knew and still knows, because he's very active, and who knows what it means to have peace. But this is what I want to say. There is this saying that the seed of growth and development can only be planted, nurtured, and watered on the soil of peace. Get my point?
Yeah.
The seed of growth and development can only be planted on the soil of peace. And that simply means if the soil is not peaceful, you cannot grow any seed that will lead to economic, political, and social growth. And if you don't have growth, whether in terms of the economy, in terms of your politics, in terms of your social life, you're not going to experience development. Because when you talk about growth, generally, you talk about the quantitative aspect. But development is the qualitative aspect. And that's why when people tell me that the Nigerian budget is XY trillion, what's the quality? How does it translate to good, simple health? You know, health affordability. How does it translate into simple medical care? How does it translate into having basic things like water?
So you're talking about HDI?
Yes, Human Development Index.
Right,
as far as Nigerian Human Development Index is concerned, we are down the line. So, and please, whenever people talk, honestly, the best thing we need to do is to be honest to ourselves as Nigerians. Because the kind of global community that Nigeria belongs to today, everything you are saying, if you're not surprised, others are even seeing it more than you. So, as far as peace is concerned, everything the former president and former head of state has said was correct. I totally agree with him.
All right. So can there be peace without injustice, without justice?
Generally, it depends from the angle you look at it, but justice is important in everything. Because when you talk about justice, you're talking about fairness.
That's true.
You know, you are talking about balancing, and when you look at the context of Nigeria and you try analyzing what is going on, I mean, you have every reason to say Nigerians are experiencing injustice from every angle. We are experiencing injustice, but most importantly, whichever way you look at it, at the end of the day, everything hinges on the government. Even though people will say, well, but government are from amongst us, and also because I handed those destinies into your care, I will wish and hope that you get supportive lieutenants to work with you.
Talking about social contracts.
Yes, so if you refuse to run an inclusive government, that is also your problem as leaders. If you decide to be nepotic, as we have seen with some of our leaders, I mean, that's your problem. If you decide that all you need to do is to go and import vehicles abroad rather than encouraging domestication, that's your problem as leaders.
All right. Pat, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk to our guest on the other side.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Nnamdi.
Let me start by asking Mr. Nnamdi, how is Abuja this morning? It's raining here in Lagos. Okay, we have heard what he said here in Lagos studio. Stating of the insecurity and global perception, let's state the insecurity and global perception. Nigeria has battled multiple layers of insecurity, from terrorism to banditry, kidnappings, and oil region militancy. How would you assess the present landscape of insecurity in Nigeria?
The situation in the country has become very deplorable. It's as though the government is at a loss on how to tackle these challenges, because you look at the north, it spans from the north down to the south, and it seems as though the whole country has been networked by insecurity, and the government is paying mere lip service to these challenges. Remember when the chief of defense staff was removed, lots of eyebrows, were raised. People were wondering why the federal government had to remove him. Is it as a result of the statements he made concerning building fences around the country and so on? But shortly after his removal, we saw how the security situation in the country nosedived. We saw bandits or terrorists taking over different areas, going on social media to brandish ransoms that they've received and so on. Lots of lives were lost. So going by what has happened within that space of time, one could actually assert that there is a breakdown of the security architecture of our country, which the government, to an extent, is trying to amend, even though there are still some questions, pertinent questions being raised. Because you look at the kidnapped victims, some of them are being rescued. People are asking questions. How are they being rescued? What happened to the kidnappers? Did you negotiate with them? Did you see them? Were they taken out? Were they neutralized? We don't get to hear about all these. All that we hear is, XYZ number of people has been released. So it becomes a vicious cycle. If we are not able to eliminate these elements that are troubling the nation, they can go back, regroup, and continue with their nefarious, activities. And again, it goes a long way to affect our, not just our image, but the perception that the international community has about our country, Nigeria. Already we have a battered image. We've seen the exchange of words between the United States president and the Nigerian government. We saw a U.S. official that came in, was it earlier this week? He's back in the U.S. to present his report, and the reports are damaging. They are damaging. So in such a situation, the Committee of Nations, they are watching, and what this will translate to is a reduction, a great reduction in foreign direct investment. Nobody wants to come into a country that is unstable to make investments. Nobody will do that. So this is one of the challenges. Then you look at the humanitarian front. Many people are displaced. Many people are trooping into other neighboring countries, and those countries will not like that situation. It's going to cause some
All right.
strain
All
in
right.
our
Thank you so
relationship
much
with
for
them.
that submission, Mr. Namdi. Let me also bring in the perspective of Mr. Zaka, who is also joining us here. The former Vice President,
Yes.
Professor Osibaju, alongside several other politicians, have always said that we should pray for our leaders to be able to tackle insecurity. Now, that brings me to the question. Has insecurity become a spiritual issue? If not, what are some of the causes of insecurity?
Well, I totally agree with the former vice president. If truly we have handed our economic, social, and political destinies into the care of our leaders in national interest, we are supposed to also pray for them and also criticize them constructively, because they owe us that responsibility of leading us right. And as citizens, it is also our responsibility to comply with what we call basic civic responsibilities of behaving like responsible citizens, and also comply with our civic responsibilities of paying our taxes and levies. So they deserve the prayers to
We
lead
have
us.
to pray.
But
That's
that
my
does not
question.
mean spiritualism is what we need to lead Nigeria. The world is led by laws and principles.
Exactly.
If you go against the principle of nature, you are going to be punished, whether you are an individual or a corporate citizen or a nation. And we see some of the greatest nations, or some of the great nations or first world countries, how many of them are Christians or Muslim? But they follow the laws of nature. But
Right.
when you talk about insecurity, the first thing you do is you even define what is security. Security basically means the absence of harm. And any country that experiences harm will experience what we call risk. Once you are experiencing insecurity as a country, as a corporate body, or as a citizen, then you are exposed to what we call harm or threat, or you will be at risk. As I speak to you right now, Nigeria is at risk. But you also have to define what is a risk. To me, we are different. When we meet like this, we share and cross-fertilize knowledge and information. To me, a risk is the chance of threats taking advantage of your vulnerabilities to cause you harm. So it depends. What are your threats? What are your vulnerabilities? As far as I'm concerned, bad governance is a vulnerability, right? Lack of education is a vulnerability. Lack of jobs for citizens is a vulnerability. So what are the kinds of harms that we have? When you look at Nigeria today, Nigeria is experiencing all kinds of harms. We are experiencing political harm. We are experiencing economic harm. We are experiencing social harm. So the question now is this: Nigeria is experiencing a risk. We have vulnerabilities. And when you analyze the vulnerabilities, you see them. Something tells me that a lot of the able-bodied boys, and I don't want to include girls, but able-bodied Nigerians that you see involved in vices, if we were to be having industries like we used to have in those days, especially manufacturing or processing industries, where people go at 6, wake up around 5 or 6, go to work, resume at 8 o'clock, and you close at 6, and you come back. First of all, you're going to be weak, but psychologically, you're going to be fulfilled.
Yes.
Because you're doing something. At the end of the month, you're going to get your paycheck.
Yeah.
All those guys, many of them now are jobless. And it's a vulnerability. So when threat like banditry, criminality, Yahoo comes in, what do you expect? It will take advantage of that, and you will experience the harm. So whether we look at it in any direction, today the control mechanisms have also failed. When you talk about control mechanisms, especially when you talk about banditry, there are three, as far as I'm concerned. We have three types of control mechanisms. You have preventive control mechanisms, you have detective control mechanisms, and you have corrective or compensating control mechanism. The preventive control mechanisms are the mechanisms or checks and balances that you put in place so that at the time the criminal is coming, you should be able to prevent even the criminal from coming in. Whether you call them banditries, militias, whatever, even thieves, you should be able to prevent that. But if for any reason your preventive mechanisms fail, at the time they are committing the crime, you should be able to have, detective mechanisms that will know that these guys are kidnappers. We couldn't prevent them from coming in, but now they are there kidnapping. We should be able to detect that. Then you activate all the necessary controls to block that. But in the context of Nigeria, preventive mechanisms will fail, criminals will come in, they beat all the security, whether company security, social, citizen security, village security, oil installation security. They will come, they will carry out all the acts, negative acts and vices, and they won't be detected. They will finish all this and escape. And that's the case. That's where you will now say they came, kidnapped, and even took away
and
our children,
ransom.
everything I do. So that means the three mechanisms have failed. But when we paint these gloomy pictures, the first thing is to accept that, are they truly happening in Nigeria? Regardless of how you contextualize it, the answer is yes. Can, as Nigeria, we be able, with the support of our leaders, confront these monsters in national interest and fix things? To me, the answer is yes.
All right. Let's pause you for a while and also bring in the guest who is also on virtual means, engaging with us. Now, Mr. Nnamdi, you heard what Mr. Zaka said about the three mechanisms that Nigeria has actually failed, talking about the preventive, detective, and of course, corrective. Now, let's get your view as regards how the cause of insecurity has affected us so adversely that we do not have the presence of governance. We have poor governance system. So what's your take on that?
Okay, for me, I think that the government has become compromised. So when the government that is meant to be fighting insecurity is compromised, then the insecurity becomes a vicious cycle. And that has been the challenge that we are facing. Today is not the only day we've been hearing about sabotage. In the military, we've heard of sabotage, especially during the time when the army general, the brigadier was captured and executed. Many Nigerians saw that as an act of sabotage. Then you look critically into the government of the day. Even the members of the cabinet, it's been alleged that some members of the cabinet, the president's cabinet, are also supporting, they are giving support to these non-state actors. In fact, many have even called for the sack of one of the ministers. So it goes a long way to tell you that Nigeria has been networked by these terrorists and their enablers. If they found themselves in government, there is no way the fight is going to be successful until the president has the moral or exercises the moral authority or the moral right to expunge such people from his cabinet and even try them. When the United States of America issued the first threat, we saw some political leaders leaving the country because they felt that they are going to be caught by the Nigerian government to be tried, or even by the US when they eventually come into the country. The question I'm asking is, why did our government allow such political personalities to leave the nation at such a time as this? There should have those enablers, including the terrorists in the various forests. By now, the government should be telling us the number of arrests that has been made, the number of executions that has taken place, the number of trials that are in court. Sadly, we are yet to see that happen. All we hear, oh, the kidnappers, they've released 7 children, 20 children. What about the kidnapper? What about them? If negotiation actually took place, why is it that the members of the Nigerian Armed Forces couldn't apprehend some of these people?
Thank you very much, Mr. Nnamdi. You actually raised some very salient questions and very good points, like you said. Now, let me come back to you quickly. He said, at the time when the US government made those statements, so to speak, some Nigerian high-placed politicians were exiting out of the country for fear of being, arrested and tried. Now, the question is, at what point did these people slip off the hand of the Nigerian government? Was it deliberate? If not, how does this affect us on a global scale? We're looking at the effect now, especially when it comes to we receiving foreign direct investment.
Well, when you talk about the global scale now, Nigeria is not looking good, But like they said, charity begins at home. Before now, Nigeria used to be the hub for the continent of Africa. Meetings were held always in Nigeria. If you want to learn about democracy, you need to come to Nigeria. If you want to learn about education, you need to come to Nigeria, because you will be made to understand that the first university in Nigeria was established around 1948. Almost heading to a century, or more than 3/4 of a century. So if you wanted to learn about diplomacy, we used to hear that even military officers used to come to Nigeria's military training schools and they get educated. Nigerians have participated in going to ensure that peace reigns in other countries. So as far as criminality, indecency, and insecurity is concerned, everybody knows that. And we all know, you were talking about FDI, everybody knows that for serious investors, whether local or foreign or whatever you call them, international investors, the first thing they consider is safety. Once safety is not there, every other thing is irrelevant. Even when you talk about the new evolving concept of sustainability, what are you even looking at? You're not even looking at the safety of human beings in some climes that have developed. You're even looking at the safety of the environment, even the crops. So we already know in the context of Nigeria, certain things are not going right. As far as I'm concerned, when you see criminality succeeding like this, to me, I want to believe that there is a well-crafted and a well-syndicated and a well-orchestrated criminality. Because security men are supposed to be involved. Community leaders are supposed to be involved. Youth leaders are supposed to be involved. And others are supposed to be involved. So if criminality or indecency or threat succeeds and penetrates all through the safeguards and cause harm, whether economic, political, or social harm, somehow, somewhere, some of the stakeholders drop their guards. And the best way to describe them is to say they all participated in the syndicated criminality.
All right. We are pressed for time. So let me quickly get Mr. Nnamdi's final thought on this before we wrap up the program. In less than 1 minute, please. Mr. Nnamdi, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Give us your last thought, please.
Okay, for me, we keep making reference to our past glory, but present day realities does not depict us as a serious nation. We've battered our reputation by ourselves, and I think that we need to go back to the drawing board as a country to redefine what our Nigerianness is. And unless we do that, unless and until we do that, we will continue to remain irrelevant in the Committee of Nations.
All right. Thank you very much, so Mr. Nnamdi. We really appreciate your time. You want to say something, Pat?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Nnamdi asked a major question Nigerians are asking. What happens to the bandits or the kidnappers or the terrorists? You know, we just hear they have rescued these people. What happened to them? No arrest, you know, nothing. We're not hearing anything. That's a major question I would have loved that is answered today, but, you know, we're short for time.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Zakabala, Public Affairs Analyst, for giving us your 2 cents on the matter. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man.
And on this note, we'll be wrapping up our program from our Lagos Network Center. Thank you so much for tuning in.